You can't spell you were loud wrong without the U. Notre Dame. More like Notre Lame. See if you can follow the pattern here, Dan. The Knicks are better without Carmelo Anthony. The Thunder are worse with Carmelo Anthony. University of Washington. It was nice not knowing you. Number 86 on Notre Dame. You realize when you scored that touchdown that Miami was leading 34-0. Best thing in sports, the angry, cold, frustrated face of Brian Kelly. Well, Georgia doesn't seem quite as good today. Dan, yes! Those are the weekend observations. Yes!
Recapping everything from tonight's Lakers game.
The Lakers Locker Room Report.
On the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
193 is the final score from Phoenix, where the Lakers beat the Suns. The Lakers improved to 6-8 on the season. And as mentioned, Lonzo Ball did not play in the fourth quarter. He had 28 minutes tonight, but another tough night shooting the ball for him. 3 of 10 overall, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. He did have 5 rebounds and 5 assists, and kind of uncharacteristically for him, he turned it over 4 times. Not a good night for him, but still a little bit surprising not to see him on the court at all in the fourth quarter.
It is, I think, and Andy, you pointed it out, in terms of how much faith Luke might have him. I just think it's one of these things. Luke Walton has shown the willingness to sit guys who haven't played well in favor of guys who have. And, the way the timeouts kind of landed in that fourth quarter, the Lakers were playing well. They wanted to get a win somewhere on this road trip, and obviously there are no more chances after this one. And so, the 4 turnovers, I think, are the reason that Lonzo wasn't on the floor. It was one of those nights, Andy, where you look at it and you say, I wonder what it would be like if all those cool passes he makes off outlets or whatever didn't quite get where they were supposed to go. And it looked like tonight, where they look reckless and sloppy as opposed to amazing.
And I think also, too, we've talked about before how when Lonzo really moves the ball with purpose, there's a hope that becomes contagious around the team, and you just see crisp ball movement, possession to possession. But I think also when Lonzo gets careless with the ball, that also becomes contagious, because particularly in the second half, the Lakers were doing a lot of unforced turnovers. I mean, they just had a lot of unnecessary unforced turnovers.
They were more cautious with the ball tonight than they have been for the last few games. Only 16, which by the Lakers standards
10
is
in the first
pretty
half,
good night.
though. I mean, they were piling them up early.
I get it, and I agree with you. The idea that they want to win some games is important. That this is a long season, and you got to have some winning to.
You want to try to put a win on the end of a road trip like this.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. So with that being understood, I think the larger goal is to get Lonzo Ball to a place where he can be the player that everybody's hoping that he's going to be. And playing in the end of games like this is going to certainly help getting him to there. And yet he still wasn't on the court. It's got to be kind of a tricky balancing act for Luke Walton to go between, I got to develop this guy, he's my future, and, oh, by the way, I'd like to beat the Suns on November 13th.
Yeah, and it's interesting, though. I really do think that there may be something to the idea of just at the end of the day, if Luke is looking for a win, if Kuzma isn't playing well, for example, another rookie, Kuzma is more likely, I think, to be on the court than Lonzo. If Lonzo isn't playing well.
Well, but obviously tonight it's not. They're not choosing between Kuzma and
I'm not saying
and Lonzo.
No,
they kept Jordan Clarkson on the floor instead of Lonzo.
I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting that we've seen the trust that Luke seems to already have that's pretty instilled and deep in Kuzma. You're right. There's not a 1-for-1 substitution, but I wasn't suggesting that.
100-93 is the final score. The Lakers beat the Suns. We're back with more in the Lakers locker room on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
And now, a page from the diary of Flo.
Dear Diary, I got the brush off again. I don't get it. Is there something wrong with the way I wave? Elbow, wrist, elbow, wrist. Why won't that little basset hound acknowledge me? I'm friendly. I give everyone peace of mind when I protect their homes through Progressive. He should be jumping for joy when I walk by.
Save an average of 17% on car insurance when you bundle home and auto through Progressive.
Maybe it's me. No, it's him.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Look at those losers. Who would ever do that again? This is the show for you.
This is the time you're going to say yes.
Welcome into another version of Mike and... forget it. It's Golic and Wingo.
Yeah, it is.
Was that a little too early?
No.
All right, we're good.
It's Golic and Wingo.
Coming on November 27th.
Helps best when one person talks at once, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
It's Golic and Wingo beginning November 27th, 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
And now, a Mike and Mike throwback moment.
I get it. The Jets stink. This is the time that you should let your son Stevie change allegiance. What's green and white and doesn't play football? The Jets. The Jets are so bad even Odell Beckham couldn't catch them. Did you hear that joke that Geno Smith told his receivers? Well, it went right over their head.
Hashtag MMSayThanks. Presented by Amazon Music Unlimited.
Oye, amigo, it is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Stugotz, what did you make of the Martellus Bennett release by the Packers? That the Packers say, go away, and they waived him with a designation of having failed to disclose a medical condition. So they're going to try and get some of their money back from Martellus.
I gotta be honest, I really didn't think too much about it.
The Dan Le Batard Show, now 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNRadio.com.
Wake up.
Good morning.
And get up.
We are back and better than ever.
With Mike and Mike. Tomorrow morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. It's the Lakers Locker Room Report.
Lakers basketball is the final.
Recapping everything from tonight's Lakers game on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
193 is the final score. The Lakers win in Phoenix against the Suns, 6-8 on the season. And Brian, what do you think? Obviously you want to win, but this is a team that's not going to win an NBA championship this year. This is a team that is in a transitional mode from going from what they are now to hopefully a playoff team in the not-too-distant future. How do you balance those two things, developing your guys and trying to win in the moment?
There is an argument that goes with, in terms of Lonzo, not playing in the fourth quarter, that when you're not playing as well as the other guys should play. And that's part of developing a player, part of developing a team is rewarding good play. Not every time. You have a rotation, and you don't want to punish someone for not playing well. If Lonzo has 3 bad quarters, but the other guys aren't crushing it, and there aren't sort of special circumstances, put him back in the game. But tonight was a night where the fourth quarter played out in a way that the player that was the best guy on the floor for the Lakers was Jordan Clarkson. Mm-hmm. And to remove him from this game wouldn't have necessarily done the team a service. And, if you're trying to build a culture, Andy, I think of selflessness and of guys working for each other on behalf of the team. You don't necessarily do that by taking out a guy who's playing really well to put in a guy who isn't.
Well, I mean, this is something we've talked about all season when it comes to Julius Randle's minutes. And there have been times where he's outplayed pretty much every big man on the floor, but in particular Kyle Kuzma. And Kuzma's ended up getting 10, 12 more minutes more than Randle, regardless of Randle's performance. We've talked about the potential danger that can come with that, not just Randle breeding resentment, but really the whole team realizing what Brian's talking about. Okay, are we supposed to be on a meritocracy? Are we supposed to be building a team-wide culture? Or are Lonzo and Kuzma going to get the same minutes regardless of how they play?
Right.
Well,
I was going to say the only difference, though, I think in that comparison, and I'm somebody who loved to see Randle get more playing time, although he was not particularly good tonight, is that Kuzma does move, stretch out the floor and balance the floor in ways that Randle doesn't.
Right, but on a night where
but I understand what you're saying.
6 from 3.
But at least, but the point is, at least the 3 is an option there. With Randle, it isn't.
The question that I have, and the reason that I keep going back to Lonzo not playing in the fourth quarter and the balancing act that Luke Walton has to figure out is, from the moment they got the number 2 pick, all I've been hearing is that the future of this team is Lonzo Ball. No one said we're going to try to win this many games, we're going to try to sneak into the playoffs. That literally everything about this team has been Lonzo, and if that's what I'm being told, that's what I'm expecting to see, and you didn't see it tonight. I like what you said, Brian, about maybe him sitting down, like, hey, chill out a little bit as part of the developmental process.
Yeah, it is. It's one game, and and he still played 28 minutes tonight. It's not like he didn't play at all.
Oh no.
And so they're going to come back Wednesday against Philadelphia, and Lonzo's going to play probably 35 minutes like he normally does.
I want to start with Lonzo in just a second. We're going to invite you to stay with you for more on our post-game coverage on our flagship station, ESPN LA 710. The Lakers win 100-93. This has been the Lakers Locker Room on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
You've been listening to the Lakers Locker Room Report.
Brought to you by
Universal Studios Hollywood.
Spend Christmas at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, November 24th through January 7th, only at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Catch the Lakers Locker Room Report recapping what went down after every Lakers game on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
Teams are making the active choice of I will lose and wreck my season instead of bringing in something that is better than what I have.
The Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Mike and Mike.
Brian Billick joins us here.
They're in the wild card division with teams like maybe Detroit and Atlanta and possibly Seattle and Dallas. I just don't see the upside in playing Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're good enough on defense and to run the ball. And particularly after an entire season off, why would you expose Aaron Rodgers at a point in his career? Yeah, he's a young guy, 26, 27. Okay, yeah, let him go in there. And what's the upside in Aaron Rodgers playing?
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
I love sports. I just wish they could be with me always. They say you don't choose the app chooses you. It is everything I could ever want in a sports companion. It can stream the games and shows that I love, and it's there whenever I need it. I never thought I could find an app that loves sports as much as I do. Until now.
Download the ESPN app to stream ESPN Radio and all the ESPN networks now.
Tuesday with Greeny and Golick. The guys will chat with Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban and Mark Schlereth. Plus reaction from Monday Night Football. It's Mike and Mike, starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. It's time for your first chance to react to tonight's Lakers. Lakers basketball is a final tonight in Phoenix. This is the Land Rover postgame show, recapping everything from tonight's game against the Suns on ESPN LA 710 and the ESPN app.
Your Southern California Land Rover retailers. Visit them for special lease and finance offers. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Were Lonzo and the Lakers able to get a win on the road? What's ahead for Wednesday night back home against the Sixers? And your reaction, 877-710-ESPN. The Land Rover postgame show tips off now. Here's Travis Rogers and Andy and Brian Kamenetsky.
193 is the final score. The Lakers get a win on the fourth and final stop of their four-game road trip. Back at it on at Staples Center, I should say, on Wednesday night against the 76ers, who are currently playing against the Clippers. So, if nothing else, the Lakers will get a chance to take on the Clippers after spending a couple of evenings in Los Angeles. That's always a competitive advantage.
Yeah, look, I mean, their Joel Embiid, I think, has like 20 points and 8 rebounds at halftime and all that. But sometimes if I'm Brett Brown, basically I'm holding my practice tomorrow, starting at about 6 o'clock at night, and it's going to be about 6 hours. And that ought to keep him where I need him to be until it's time to go to bed.
Joel Embiid from having one too many Shirley
Just
Temples.
all of them. I'm keeping up.
He loves Shirley Temples.
Ordering them by the pitcher.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, in some ways, you kind of prefer you just have some drinks. Like some normal, you'd rather him have a pitcher of beer, I think, than a pitcher of Shirley Temples.
Have 2 vodka tonics rather than have a pitcher of Shirley Temples.
Well, these guys are so young, too, that like a pitcher of Shirley Temples, you're worried it's going to keep them up past their bedtime because they're like too jittery.
Yeah, that's too many Shirley Temples. Let's start right here. Let's go back to
better that than a Roy Rogers.
Yeah, I guess. Is there? Michael and John and I were having a conversation during the pregame show talking about Lonzo, and he struggled tonight. He had the good game in Milwaukee a couple nights ago where he got the triple-double, shot the ball pretty well. He did not shoot the ball well tonight, just 3 of 10, 1 of 4 from behind the three-point line. And Magic Johnson went on Mike and Mike this morning and talked about how they're not going to mess with him. They're going to let him go through the season, and at the end of the season they will make a decision based on how he shoots, whether or not they need to go through and rebuild this shot. If he continues to shoot the ball the way he has through the first, 14 games of the season, if you get to game 25, game 35, and he's still shooting 30% or maybe even a little bit below why not start now? What's the point of waiting for an offseason if he's making 28, 29% of his shots?
Because I think he's going to start becoming really self-conscious, and it'll start getting really wonky during games.
You can't do it. Well, it's bad now, but you can't make those kinds of mechanical changes in the middle of the season because of the amount of repetition that it takes and the amount of time you have to spend to break it back down and build it back up.
You go on a long road trip, it messes up the entire practice time that you would have to get those steady reps.
There's just too much to do. There's just too much to do.
You got to remember, there is so much that Lonzo's acclimating himself to right now during just a regular rookie year. Much less a rookie year where his shot is, as I said before, a little wonky.
If you have to rebuild it and you wait until the offseason to do it, then it's not going to be ready to go the following season, which basically means you're waiting until his third season in the NFL.
Well, is that? I'm not sure I buy that. I mean, is it necessarily true that it won't be somehow more repaired in this? Guys, keep in mind, too, Lonzo doesn't need to be Steph. He just needs to be not shooting 27% from the floor. I mean, there's a lot of wiggle room in here.
It just feels that it's not a perfect analogy, but it's similar in the sense that once you've decided you need to fire someone, there's really no reason to wait to fire them, right? Get them out of the building. Get the process of getting the next person in to try and resurrect that.
Are you firing Lonzo's shot, Travis?
Yes, and if we're headed in that direction, and I'm not saying you do it today because he had a bad game today, but if you get halfway through the season, I don't know.
I think they're gonna work incrementally to fix things. I mean, they're not just gonna go up to him every day and be like, you know what, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, they're gonna work with him. But I think what Brian and I are talking about is like a massive reconstruction of his shot. Like if they're ultimately convinced, even if they won't say it publicly, that a lot of work needs to go into this thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to try to overhaul it during the season because it just makes him way more self-conscious, not just about the shot, but I think about the way he plays in general.
It's also step two. Step one is see if you can fix what he does to make it more consistent. There's just there's not, you read that David Aldridge report and what people are saying about Lonzo's shot from the waist down. It's not so much the weird sidewindery thing he does up top. It's also his footwork is completely inconsistent. His jumping points, his release point, his jump, is he going forward? Is he going sideways? So all these things aren't consistent. So I mean, there are guys who have made Hall of Fame shooting careers. Jamal Wilkes. That thing you would never teach a kid to shoot like that.
Yeah, but I've heard that a lot. And the difference is that Jamal Wilkes, Reggie Miller, guys that shoot the ball unusually. They were always good shooters. They never were terrible shooters.
But Lonzo historically has been a good shooter. He shot the ball. He's a 40% 3-point shooter at UCLA. To me,
which
the more
2.5 feet closer.
Sure, but of course he was shooting the ball more from the pro line, and now he's moved back even further. But to me, the more distressing thing, if you're looking for signs of problems, is that he's not finishing either, because he never had much of a mid-range game in college. Everything was either at the rim or it was at the 3-point line, and it's great for the analytics people. But if he's not going to have that mid-range game, he's got to be able to finish inside. I think a lot like Brandon Ingram, some of that comes with getting stronger. Having the ability to take contact and finish around there. But he's got to be one or the other. You can't be neither.
Okay, here's what they can work on him when it comes to shooting in season, and I think work with them a lot that won't potentially get in the way of anything. Free throw shooting. Like that
team needs work on that.
The whole team does, but I'm saying Lonzo in particular. You can work on those mechanics, I think, without it becoming either cumbersome or distracting during the year. And I imagine they'll work with him a lot on that.
The game was close for most of the night. The Lakers got a little bit of a comfortable lead there towards the end. They had a 10-point lead with a couple of minutes or so to go. But, you mentioned that, Andy. The Lakers just 8 of 13 from the foul line. That's 61.5%. I mean, that's not good. And for a team that is struggling to get points as it is, those freebies at the free throw line, they're going to have to do better than that.
Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately, you go up and down the roster, and they don't have a lot of guys who are particularly reliable at the stripe. I mean, Brook Lopez is actually a pretty good free throw shooter. Kuzma's fairly good, but he doesn't really get there a whole lot.
Clarkson's good.
Clarkson's
doesn't
pretty good,
get there
but
as much as you'd want.
Right. Clarkson for a scorer has never been a guy who draws first.
Not getting to the free throw line has always been the thing that keeps Jordan Clarkson from being considered a top flight, particularly bench scorer.
Yeah, especially when you look at a guy like Lou Williams, who seems to get there 10, 12 times a game.
Right. He gets fouled taking three-pointers 3 times a game.
But, KCP is a 75% shooter, but he doesn't get there a ton. And then you start going down the line. Larry Nance Jr.'s okay. Julius Randle is okay. Brandon Ingram is on the low side of okay. And then there's just not a lot of reliability team-wide.
The McDonald's Defensive Play of the Game is brought to you by McDonald's. Get McDelivery now on the Uber Eats app. Delivery prices may be higher than at restaurants. Booking fee applies. Tonight's Defensive Play of the Game, Contavious Caldwell-Pope.
Jackson dribbling left, knocked away by Caldwell-Pope. Ball goes into the backcourt. Caldwell-Pope dives. Brewer picks up a loose ball and dunks it. Give credit to Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Michael, who battled for that steal, and Corey Brewer cashed it in.
193 is the final score. We are back with more on the Land Rover postgame show on ESPN LA.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie, and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit Geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones. What is the most shook you have ever been to face your parents after you messed up? Start the trade in New York. Trade that's called The Right Time.
I decided, because I already thought I was grown, I said, hey, let's take my dad's Corvette out. Let's take it around the block.
Oh, no.
So so we took it around the block, and we set it up to get it perfectly lined straight back up. And we got to it, but I was trying to mess around with my friend. I revved up the engine. He jumps. I laugh. I'm too busy laughing at him. My hand goes in reverse. The car leaps back. I'm so scared. I don't know really what happens. My hand goes into drive, goes right through the garage, into the dining room, past the hood, just sticking out.
You ruined the car and the house?
And it's the house.
Can't hear all 3 hours of The Right Time? Check them out anytime, on demand, on the ESPN app.
Keep it locked to the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
It was an amazing run, and I think we all need to genuflect at how Vin Scully made it his entire life without giving an opinion that would be viewed as polarizing. Kira, put it on the poll. Is Vin Scully's lifetime of non-controversial comments the most unbreakable record in sports?
The Dan Le Batard Show, now 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNRadio.com.
Mike. Tomorrow morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Go ahead and update the polls.
Enough with the name changes, Diddy. Agree or disagree? Is the turnover chain the best thing in sport? Does Andy Reid's play sheet look like a Waffle House menu?
The Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Mike and Mike.
Brian Billick joins us here.
They're in the wild card division with teams like maybe Detroit and Atlanta and possibly Seattle and Dallas. I just don't see the upside in playing Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're good enough on defense and to run the ball. And particularly after an entire season off, why would you expose Aaron Rodgers at a point in his career? Yeah, he's a young guy, 26, 27. Okay, yeah, let him go in there. And what's the upside in Aaron Rodgers playing?
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. This is the Land Rover Postgame Show. Highlights from tonight's Lakers game and your reaction on the Lakers line.
Hi, this is Luke Walton on ESPN LA 710 and the ESPN app.
The Land Rover Postgame Show.
Your Southern California Land Rover retailers. Visit them for special lease and finance offers. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Once again, here's Travis Rogers and Andy and Brian Kamenetsky.
193 is your final score. The Lakers beat the Suns. The Lakers Secret Word promotion, easy for me to say, is back. We're giving away a Lakers flyaway to see the Lakers and the Warriors in the Bay Area on December 22nd. And here's how you can win. Tonight's secret word is Kuzma. Listen tomorrow for Keyshawn's cue to call during the 7 a.m. hour. And if you are the 7th caller with the correct secret word, you win the Lakers flyaway with airfare, hotel, and tickets to the game. The secret word, one more time, Kuzma. 100-93 is the score for tonight's game. The Lakers win. If you want to get in and talk about what you saw, 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-3776. And Julius Randle did not have one of his better games tonight, guys, and he played about the same amount of minutes as he has been. He played 19 minutes, but just 8 points in those 19 minutes. He did get 8 rebounds along the way, had a couple of blocks as well, but while we've seen him play hard all season long, he seemed like he was still playing hard, but he was more out of control tonight than he has been previously.
I thought so. I mean, I as somebody who wants him on the floor, I know Andy and I have talked about this a lot, he still has to play well, and you can't get outside the offense. I mentioned before, like, it looked at the beginning of this game like Jordan Clarkson was going to get back into some of his lesser habits that he's really overcome, I think, over the course of this season. His first couple minutes on the floor looked like the game against Milwaukee where he wasn't very good. Randall was like that too, except he never kind of broke out of it. He had a couple bad turnovers, and the ball just stuck with him too much. And I think that's why Luke Walton didn't keep him on the floor.
What do you think of, we were talking about this during the pregame show too, then you mentioned the meritocracy, that he merits more minutes, and not tonight. Tonight was not a performance that would make you think, okay, he needs more time. But globally speaking, I think that's true. It doesn't feel like it's coming, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, and it's only going to become more difficult or unwilling, depending on how you look at it, to give Julius extra minutes once Larry Nance Jr. eventually gets back. You know, tonight was a night also where Julius saw some of his minutes get reduced due to matchup considerations because Phoenix was going big, and Luke went with Andrew Bogut in some of those minutes, and Bogut actually played pretty well.
That was easily his best game.
Particularly in the first half, he was really productive. He had 7 rebounds, 2 blocks. He was plus 15 on the night in just 16 minutes. So you can see he had an impact. Also, too, Corey Brewer played 18 minutes and played really well. And that just starts getting into forward minutes.
Yeah, and that's kind of the opposite conversation, but the same conversation with regards to Corey Brewer. And he played really well tonight. He had 13 points in 18 minutes. But it does feel that Corey Brewer gets a lot of time for a guy that does not seem, I don't want to say doesn't have a future. That seems overly harsh, but doesn't have a future.
He's literally got one.
Future of this team.
There's something to be said that in coaches in every sport like predictability and they like stability. And so, you know, if you have all of these young players and a bunch of guys with a relative lack of experience, and you're trying to get the group to do a certain thing, which is what Luke Walton and the rest of the coaching staff are doing, I think, Andy, they're willing to sacrifice a little bit of minutes and player development, so to speak, to make sure the whole operation is running as smoothly as it can. And I think that explains Corey Brewer's minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of only 2 people, him and Brook Lopez, who are in the rotation regularly who have 6 or more seasons in the league. Mm-hmm. So, you want somebody to try to keep the thing on the rails, particularly when Brook Lopez has been sitting when it comes to experience, and Brewer really is that guy.
Let's try a phone call here, 877-710-ESPN, if you'd like to get involved as well. We'll start in Los Angeles with David. And, David, you're on the Land Rover Postgame Show. What's going on?
Thanks, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Thanks. I mean, this Laker core is just so exciting. And it feels a little silly to say, but, having Kobe Bryant with the Lakers for the past, 2 decades is just such an unusual thing for a sports fan. So it finally feels like I'm kind of rooting for the Lakers as if they're just another basketball team already. They were for such a big part of my life, like such a juggernaut, and now I just feel like, oh, okay, yeah, some teams are way better. Now I can just kind of sit back and watch the team kind of build up.
Yeah, I think, David, that you're experiencing what a lot of Laker fans have experienced, and that is, and just an absolutely unprecedented level of success over the course of 30 years. That this was, if you're a Kobe Bryant, you grew up with the Kobe Bryant Lakers. I grew up with the Showtime Lakers, who were that and then some. And then you go through the Shaq and Kobe version, and then you go through the Kobe and Powell version, that for 30 years the Lakers were either competing to get to the finals, getting to the finals, or winning NBA championships. And that's the abnormal level of play, that saying, the quote-unquote a regular NBA team. This is what the rest of the league that's not the LeBron Jameses of the world and the Lakers and maybe San Antonio, this is what they deal with in perpetuity.
Yeah, this is how the other half lives. I mean, welcome to the rest of the world. I mean, the Lakers have been the 1%ers of the NBA, and by extension, NBA fans. I guess we're looking for a little bit of wage equality or something like that, like income equality.
Well, what's funny is you talked about whether you're a Kobe Laker guy and you got those finals teams, or you're a Showtime Lakers guy and you got those finals team. I'm looking it up right now. The wilderness, like the dark period between the end of Showtime, which was really Magic and
Nick
HIV.
Van Exel, Eddie Jones era.
Right, and up until the Shaq Kobe years and the couple seasons it took for them to get to the finals, they were still really good. They never, they
missed the playoffs once.
They missed the playoffs one time.
Coincidentally, I used to see that team out a lot.
Yeah, they made a Western Western Conference semifinals. There was a couple of semifinals, a couple first rounds. 1 year where they didn't make the playoffs, and that was considered again the wilderness in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and look, one of the things I love about this town, and one of the things I love about this town's sports fans, is that we do demand excellence, and if it isn't excellent, we kind of check out. And I know that that's a bad rap on sports fans in the rest of the country, but here I think we kind of wear it as a badge of be good, or we're not.
It's not even like regular excellence. It has to be like excellent excellence.
Right.
Like a normal excellence is not good enough.
Excellence that you hear listening to KSBN Los Angeles.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that. Let's try another phone call. Michael in LA this time. Michael, you're on.
I heard that entire exchange.
Hey, what's up, guys? Tonight, not the most picturesque win, but, for a team like the young team like the Lakers, who are trying to still find their identity, winning on the road is a process. So, a team like Phoenix is kind of in the same boat, maybe a little less than Lakers. So, just take care of business. I love the way Clarkson was rhythm tonight, but I'm really excited for Wednesday. I'm going out to the game. I really like that Philly team. A lot of people are saying Ben Simmons, that's magic. I don't know about that. I think that's a little over the top, but he's really going to be special. And Embiid, if he stays healthy, this guy can be like a Shaq type, not as dominant as Shaq, obviously, but he's got all the skill sets and more.
I'm not sure if it's that obviously.
He might actually, if Embiid can stay healthy, I don't think it's out of the question that he could be as dominant as Shaq.
But what's amazing about Embiid, and we're actually watching him right now, the Sixers and the Clippers playing, he's got 19 and 9, including a 3-pointer tonight, is that he is there was an article, I think it was Kevin Pelton wrote, he might already be the best two-way player in the NBA. In terms of, if you break down the numbers of his defensive impact, and what he does when the Sixers are when he's on the floor with the Sixers versus when he's off, the difference is profound. And so, we're just scratching the surface. And if, like Brook Lopez, early in his career when he kept getting hurt, and then you look like 8 years later and he's like, well, you know what? Brook Lopez hasn't been hurt in like a decade.
Right.
If Embiid can become that guy.
Same thing happened with Zydrunas Ilgauskas. In the beginning of his career, he kept having those foot injuries.
Right.
Couldn't stay on the court. Then all of a sudden you're like, wow, Z hasn't been hurt in a while.
And so, I think that's what everybody who likes basketball hopes that's what happens with Joel Embiid.
And he's fun. He's a great personality, too. It's a lot of fun. All right. The Drive of the Game is brought to you by LA Car Guy. Check out monthly specials and browse the inventory of all 11 LA Car Guy dealerships on one website, lacarguy.com. The Drive of the Game, Jordan Clarkson.
Clarkson flying to the rim, left-handed up and in. Jordan Clarkson with a great layup at the rim.
How many points does he have?
Clarkson in this game so far is up to 12 points. He's the leading scorer for either team.
Lakers win 100-93. Joining us next, Alan Slewa, the host of Lakers Talk. That's coming up on the Land Rover Postgame Show on ESPN LA.
We apologize for Keyshawn, George, and LZ this morning on ESPN LA 710.
What about George's cousin jumping in the bullpen?
It's not his. What was his name, George? I'm going to go with Carlos.
Somebody going to get fired.
Mornings with Keyshawn, George, and LZ.
I know. I'm just saying. Look, my middle name is Carlos. I figured, what the hell? I know it was a pretty popular name. It wasn't Tyrone or Jamal, I can tell you that.
Yeah, we don't act that way.
On ESPN LA 710.
With Pennzoil Synthetics in your engine, you can let your horses run free. Because Pennzoil Synthetics gives you the power of complete protection. So you can let your engine burn and roar. We know horses horsepower matters, and that's why Dodge SRT trusts Pennzoil in the fastest and most powerful production car in the world. And if they trust our performance, you can too. Pennzoil Synthetics give you complete protection for top engine performance. Make the switch today at your nearest Advance Auto Parts location.
Steve Mason, John Ireland.
What relationship do you have to your hair?
I'm just glad I still have it. Most of the guys our age don't have any hair left.
It's Mason and Ireland.
My hair went white when I was in my late 20s. That's when I started coloring it. At some point, you've done it for so long, you're afraid to stop. I've talked about being bipolar. I've talked about being gay. I just couldn't come out as gray.
You actually held on to the gray longer than you held on to the gay.
Weekdays at noon on ESPN LA 710 and the ESPN app.
Thanks to Pizza at $7.99 large pizza deal, it's never been easier to bring everyone to the table. Get an oven-hot large pizza with 2 of your favorite toppings for just $7.99. It's the best pizza delivery deal out there because no one outpizzas the Hut.
Marcellus Wiley, Kelvin Washington, Eric Davis.
What the hell are you eating, Eric? Hey, let me look at that doggy pow Purina.
It is
nasty.
It's ground chicken, okay, pinto bean, and lime rice.
That's why he has a six-pack.
Making the afternoon drive lively from 3 to 7 p.m.
It's salsa. It's a homemade salsa. Mama made this. Well, Mama made all of this.
What the hell? How old are you? Y'all making stuff?
ESPN LA 710. This is the Land Rover postgame show. Highlights from tonight's Lakers game and your reaction on the Lakers line.
Hey, it's Lonzo Ball on ESPN LA 710.
Come along for the ride. See Lakers basketball.
The Land Rover postgame show.
Your Southern California Land Rover retailers. Visit them for special lease and finance offers. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Once again, here's Travis Rogers and Andy and Brian Kamenetsky.
Lakers with a win tonight in Phoenix. They win by 7, 100-93. They improved their record through the first 14 games of the season to 6-8. And up next, the Philadelphia 76ers on Wednesday night. Joining us right now is Alan Slewa, the host of Lakers Talk. And Alan, I'll start with you with the same where that Brian and Andy and I started with. What did you make of Lonzo Ball not on the court in the fourth quarter tonight?
I thought, to have him on the court just because he's Lonzo Ball or just because he started the game, I think it's a mistake sometimes. You see a lot of, in sports, it's like the tendency to just do things because you're supposed to do it that way. That crew was clicking. We know what Jordan Clarkson provided tonight from an offensive standpoint. Lakers only had 100 points total, so I thought it was smart to do so. Corey Brewer was great in the fourth quarter. I liked Coach Luke Walton not saying, well, I have to have this lineup in because that's how I started it. I thought it was a smart move not to put him in.
Yeah, and Alan, we've been talking about it. Like, at some point, you just need to kind of get a win. Like, you play to develop, and obviously there's no draft pick to protect, and they're not going to the playoffs and all that. But you do have to win some games, I think, for this project that they're doing to get to the summertime and look like an appealing franchise to come to. So, I wouldn't do it every night, but to have some nights where you sit Lonzo in favor of the guys who look like they're going to get you the win, I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing, too. It's like if Randall was having a great game, keep Randall in the game. And I understand, the development part of it, and I get that, you want him in some of these crunch time situations. But, BK, I agree. They lost 3 games in a row where a couple of them they had a chance. Come fourth quarter, they had a chance against the Boston Celtics. I thought the Bucks game, there was that stretch in the third quarter. Other than that, they're right in it. It's nice for them to get a W, especially because the Suns are certainly one of those teams that you can try and take advantage of getting a win.
Al, what did you make of the road trip in general? I mean, 1-3, but like you said, that there were some sequences that are positive for the Lakers, even though they went 1-3.
I think, I was thinking about this coming into the Suns game that they go 0-3. I think the surprise would have been if they came back 2-2. They came back 1-3. I think the surprise would have been if they got more wins than losses. So I think it's pretty much as planned. The Boston game was the most frustrating to me because I actually really felt they had a shot to win that game. Obviously, Al Horford didn't play. Jason Tatum went out in the game. That one was the only one where there's a few possessions that the Lakers had a chance to really grab a W. But overall, there's some highlights. What Lonzo Ball did in Milwaukee, I thought that was great. Overall, they're going to come back to the to Staples Center with just 1 win in 4 games. But BK, you said it best. This year is not about how many wins are the Lakers going to get. It's do you look attractive enough that maybe there's a free agent out there that says, I like what they're building over there, and take it from there?
Alan Slewa, host of Lakers Talk, joining us, and kind of even going maybe a little bit further out. And through the first 14 games, they're 6-8. Is this about what your expectation is for the season, Alan, in the sense that they're going to hover, maybe just a little under 500 by the time it's all said and done, which translates to somewhere between 35 wins there, give or take?
It's funny. I still don't know. Their games, they've played some good teams and got victories. Now, I know they haven't really done that on the road, but beating a good Pistons team, beating a good Washington Wizards team, I know they got blown out on the road in that one, but I still feel like we're trying to figure out what the Lakers are. I think they're becoming, at least the rotation is becoming more and more of an identity. Larry Nance coming out certainly hurt them, from a bench perspective. You didn't have Kuzma coming off the bench. Now Kuzma's playing 40 minutes, pretty much playing for the starting unit and the bench. But I still am trying to figure it out. Lonzo has one good shooting night, and, the Lakers, his whole stat line changes, and he really has only had two of those this entire season. Tonight wasn't one of those games where you can say, obviously he was elite like he was the game before. I'm still trying to figure it out, Travis. I really still don't have the answer. Brandon Ingram is, incredibly, he has one game where he looks great, and then he's quiet for two straight games. So we'll see if they could string together some solid performances from all the kids, and we'll see how the rest of the season shakes out.
Speaking of trying to figure it out, the Sixers are a team trying to figure out who they are as they build their identity moving forward. This Wednesday should be pretty fun, this game.
Well, AK, I came across the street to Staples Center. I got my notepad ready. I'm scouting right now.
Are you doing recon
the whole. I'm doing some, little extra homework.
He's the hardest working man in Lakers talk.
Well, okay, then what have been your impressions so far then?
Well, I mean, look, I know the talk has, been about Ben Simmons, and rightfully so. I love how they're talking about Rookie of the Year for him. Really, I'm looking at him, I'm like, what do you mean Rookie of the Year? This guy's got to be in an all-star game in the Eastern Conference. I mean, he's been fantastic to start the year. It's interesting. They've got a team that J.J. Redick, obviously, his first season with the Philadelphia 76ers, they got players too. And I think the difference between them and the Lakers is they have one or two of those guys you can look at and say, he's most likely going to be an all-star, where the Lakers, their young picks that they've had over the years, we don't know if any of these guys are all-stars. And Philadelphia is a little bit further along the process, I'd say the Lakers are.
Alan Slewa, the host of Lakers Talk. It's going to air tomorrow from 8 until 10 following Trojans Live. What are you going to talk about tomorrow night, Alan?
You know what? We'll talk about the just some of the positives, like you guys mentioned, on the road trip, but really looking ahead. They got some good matchups. They got a nice stretch here of home games that they can potentially capitalize off of. Serena Winters from Lakers Nation will hop on as well, so definitely a good show lined up.
All right, check it out tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, following Trojans Live. Alan, thanks.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, the block of the game is brought to you by Ritz Plumbing. The next time your pipes are all blocked and backed up, the only place to use is family-owned Ritz Plumbing, in business for over 85 years. RitzPlumbing.com, the block of the night.
James gets it back inside to Alex Len with a smaller man on him. 3 Lakers block the shot, and here comes Caldwell Pope. That was excellent defense by the Lakers. Caldwell Pope to Corey Brewer. Brewer flying down the middle. Left-hand layup, good. Corey Brewer has been an excellent spark plug for the Lakers tonight.
That's your block of the night. When we come back, we'll talk about the 76ers and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and what we're going to see on Wednesday night. We'll do that next on the Land Rover Postgame Show on ESPN LA.
This is Marcellus, Kelvin, and E.D.
No, this is a real example. 7 years old, we were getting off the 110 going to Grandma's house, and my uncle was in the front driving. Police pulled us over.
Making the afternoon drive lively from 3 to 7 p.m.
Police were like, hey, you been drinking? And he said, no, sir, no, officer. And I said, Uncle, you had a couple beers, remember, at Mama?
Marcellus, Kelvin, and E.D.
Dog, we was on the side of that freeway about an hour. I was 7, dog.
ESPN LA 710.
Hi, I'm Mike Sullivan, LA Car Guy. Who doesn't love options? That's why we have an incredible selection of over 600 pre-owned vehicles, including SUVs, hybrids, and luxury cars. Just head to LACarGuy.com and browse our massive inventory based on type, color, price, and more. And remember, we're always looking to buy cars, so come to one of our dealerships, even if you just want to sell us yours.
Find your perfect pre-owned vehicle today at LACarGuy.com.
LA Car Guy, driving style since 1974.
On era of morning radio in Southern California.
Número tres. Yeah, we don't get to numero tres. I'm talking right now.
Número tres.
I won't say nothing. When you want to talk about something, it's okay. When we want to talk about it, it's not. You and George.
Wait, what? Mornings with Keyshawn, George, and LC.
You ain't slick, and he ain't either. Come on, numero tres. Let's go. I'm mad.
We have only a certain amount of time.
We can roll it over to the next segment.
We can.
We can push it in. We can push it. We can win.
Tomorrow morning, 6 to 9. This is the Land Rover Postgame Show. Highlights from tonight's Lakers game and your reaction on the Lakers line.
Hi, this is Luke Walton on ESPN LA 710 and the ESPN app.
The Land Rover Postgame Show.
Your Southern California Land Rover retailers. Visit them for special lease and finance offers. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Once again, here's Travis Rogers and Andy and Brian Kamenetsky.
The Universal Studios Hollywood Star of the Game is presented by Universal Studios Hollywood. Spend Christmas at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, November 24th through January 7th, only at Universal Studios Hollywood. Tonight's star of the game, an easy one, Jordan Clarkson.
Clarkson dribbling just inside half court. Clarkson dribbles right, down the middle, all the way, got to the rim, lays it up and in. Jordan Clarkson with a game-high 25. The Lakers have their biggest lead, 10, 98-88.
All right, so coming up on Wednesday, the Lakers are going to host the 76ers, and we talked a little bit about Joel Embiid, and so far he's having a big night tonight. About 3.5 minutes to go in the game. The Sixers are down 3 to the Clippers, 73-70. Joel Embiid already 21-9. Let's talk about Ben Simmons for a second. And the caller earlier said something along the lines of that, he's not quite the next Magic Johnson, and, well, who is, really? But at the same time, they seem to have two guys that are not just, nice players, and maybe other guys are going to want to come and play around. They have two guys that are legitimate NBA stars in the making.
Okay, first of all, Ben Simmons is essentially he's a point guard, point forward, whatever you want to call him, but he runs their offense at 6'10", 230. He's averaging 17, 9, and 8.
In what is his rookie season, I'd like to remind people.
Yeah. Are we that sure that he couldn't be the next Magic?
Point.
I mean,
yeah, all right.
As hyperbolic as that may sound.
And he's 20, or is he 21 now because of the missed year?
He's 21.
Okay.
Those are amazing numbers.
They really are.
And like Magic, he can't shoot from the outside.
But it feels like not only do they have good players, they have stars don't come around very often. They're hard to find. This whole idea of, we need to get a Russell Westbrook or a LeBron James, they're hard to find. There are really good players in the NBA, but there are only, when you talk about those mega stars, there's maybe a half dozen of them in the NBA, maybe 8 if you really stretch the definition. They might have, if we're having this conversation 5 years from now, they might have 2.
And that's the thing. And when you go back through,
by the way, that's without even knowing what Markelle Fultz is.
Right.
Yeah.
And we didn't even think about him. And this is why they did the way they did it, is because you just have to keep throwing stuff at the draft until you get it, because the best way to get a star is to draft one. You can maybe sign a free agent. Philly's not exactly a major destination for that, but it's not a backwater either. But it's hard to count on being able to do it that way, and so you have to draft him. But even in the draft, in any given draft, there are, if you're lucky, 2 of those guys per draft.
Maybe.
Yeah. And there could be a bunch of good players.
And there's a difference between a good player and a superstar.
Right, and then you have to go through and you start to fill in with the other guys. They have Robert Covington, who is a really underrated player, and if he wasn't playing in Philly, a lot more people would know about him. And they've got this sort of infrastructure. Dario Saric has turned into a good player.
T.J. McConnell is a solid
backup. And they have all these dudes, and they still have some draft picks, and they still have some guys stashed overseas. And like Andy said, Markelle Fultz hasn't even played yet. So their process deserves to be trusted.
You guys think they make the postseason this year?
I do.
Yeah, I think they will. They're 6-6 right now.
Assuming good health.
Right. And with them, it truly needs to be stated, even that if it feels obvious, that that's a team that health can become a real issue. But they are 6-6 now. They haven't had faults at all, and you figure they're only going to get more experienced and more comfortable on the floor.
Let's try another phone call here before we call it a night. Huntington Beach and Keith. Keith, you are on the Land Rover postgame show.
Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Good. What's up?
I just wanted to call, first of all, say I'm happy that the Lakers are finally a team that I could get back to watching. For years, it's been pretty difficult at some stretches of time. And also, second point, I want to say that I'm a huge Brandon Ingram fan. This is why I'm calling. I need you guys to talk me off the ledge. I've been noticing a couple games that he sometimes just disappears, and I'm just wondering, he's supposed to be one of our two untouchable players, and why is he just taking, it just looks like he's just off the court sometimes when he's playing, and I'll get off the phone now and just want to hear you guys talk about it.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate the phone call.
20 and still weighs, 190 pounds, and he's working his way through. I just think overall, and we were talking about it with Alan, you break down his good games versus his bad games, and look at until these last two games of the road trip. Look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row where he was in double figures and doing other things at the same time. So where even if he has a 10-point night, it's with 6 or 7 rebounds and a couple assists, and that he's there. I mean, I think overall the progression that he's had from last year to this year and what you can project from this year to next year, I think he's doing fine.
Here's where I think maybe what Keith might be talking about, where it manifests itself. I'm looking at right now at Brandon Ingram's splits. In wins, he averages 19 points a game. He's shooting 54.5% from three, 53.5% from the field, averaging almost 7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and a block. In losses, just under 12 points, shooting 38% from the field, shooting under 10% from three. So what it really indicates is just how much this team depends on Brandon Ingram to play well in order to win games. And those nights where he doesn't play well, it can really feel like he's vanishing because it probably means they're going to lose.
But if I told you, what are they now, 14 games in? 14 games in, that Ingram will be averaging 14.5, 5, and 2.5. I'd take that.
Yeah, I agree. He's been more consistent this season than he was last season, which is to be expected. And he didn't play particularly well in Milwaukee. He didn't play particularly well tonight. But prior to that, he'd played really well. And I think he's going to be an inconsistent player as long as he continues to struggle with his jump shot, which he has been, because it's hard to be a consistent player when you can't rely on your shot. And the other thing, and Brian, you mentioned it, it's hard to be consistent when you are giving away 60, 70 pounds at a time because you can't physically take over a game the way a bigger, stronger player can.
Yeah, and I think the idea with these younger guys is, do you see why people get excited about them? And he made a Euro step move tonight. He blew the layup, but he made a play tonight where he took the ball from the perimeter, put it on the floor. Great Euro step to get around the defenders and just missed a layup. But you're looking at that going, wow, that is impossible to defend. And I think the progress, Andy, I think that he's made in terms of understanding really how to use his body on both sides of the ball to be effective, to be a force. It's just a major step forward this year as opposed to last.
I've been high on Brandon Ingram since I saw him play in the preseason last year. Saw him in the summer league. Like, even games where he'd struggle, you'd see 2 or 3 possessions, 2 or 3 sequences where you're like, a 19-year-old shouldn't know to do that.
Yeah.
Or a kid of his inexperience wouldn't be able to make a certain pass or read the floor a certain way. I think he's really going to be good. We also talked about the inconsistency before, or I guess periodic this season, and what can get in the way. It's hard to be consistent when you're not surrounded by consistency.
That's a good point,
and he's got a lot of teammates that are still learning how to be more consistent as players, and that's going to be difficult for him in his second season to overcome that.
100-93 is the final score. The Lakers win. They are 6-8. They get an off day tomorrow, and then back at Staples Center for the beginning of a 4-game homestand against the Philadelphia 76ers. For Andy and Brian Kamenetsky, I'm Travis Rogers, and this has been the Land Rover Postgame Show on ESPN LA.
You've been listening to tonight's Land Rover Postgame Show.
Your Southern California Land Rover retailers. Visit them for special lease and finance offers. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Lakers basketball, presented by
Pizza Hut. Get a large 2-topping pizza with pizza delivered for just $7.99 when you order online. Only at Pizza Hut. Gardens Casino, featuring 220 flat-screen TVs, 24 California craft beers on tap, and an upscale bar and lounge with handcrafted cocktails. Located off the 605 and Carson Street. Please play responsibly. The Gardens Casino, best play in L.A.
In-N-Out Burger. That's what a hamburger's all about.
Universal Studios Hollywood. Spend Christmas at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, November 24th through January 7th. Only at Universal Studios Hollywood. LA Car Guide. LA Car Guide. Check out monthly specials and browse the inventory of all 11 LA Car Guide dealerships in one website. LACarGuide.com.
Get closer to Lakers basketball right here. The Lakers play here. ESPN LA 710 and the ESPN app.